everybody. I'm Lisa Shield.
And I'm Benjamin Shield.
And together we make up two shields on a shingle. That's the name of our LLC. Or is it an S Corp now again?
LLC.
An LLC, okay. Benjamin takes care of all of those things. And he's the one who's responsible for that great title. We are so happy to see you today. And we are going to talk about a very, very, very important subject, which is anger and how it can push really good men away when women become angry and attacking and blaming. So first of all, everybody gets angry. It is a normal human emotion. And we shouldn't suppress anger. We shouldn't push it away. And often there are very legitimate reasons for why people feel angry. It's not the anger itself, it's how we express that anger that is so important. So a lot of women use anger when they anticipate that their needs aren't going to get met. And then they attack a man or they come at him with a lot of force, right? Something that just doesn't work is if you want a man to feel love for you and to feel safe with you and to trust you as a woman and feel like he can open up his heart and get emotionally naked with you, you can't be righteous or condescending and make men wrong.
Yeah. Or shame him.
Right.
Shame is one of the most devastating emotions that a man can feel. And so if a woman's anger is directed to shaming a man, it brings two people farther apart rather than bringing them closer together to solve a problem.
Yeah, and I don't know that women realize, so many of us, there's so much mythology around that men are strong and being masculine means that you're above it and you can, it doesn't faze you if a woman comes at you. But a man can attack a man. But when a woman attacks a man and shames him, it feels emasculating.
It's emasculating. And I think one advantage of a woman over a man with anger is that I think that women tend to get over things more quickly than men do. Men will percolate things and it will last and last and last long after, apologies and makeups and all of that, roses have been sent and all of that. A man will still feel that wound.
Yeah, it doesn't go away. And part of that is because men are taught that big boys don't cry. It's not masculine to show emotion. It's not masculine to admit that you've been hurt. And so there's all of this keeping up that image, that masculine facade. And men don't have other men. They can't talk about emotional things with other men.
Right. One guy doesn't come to the other guy and say, I'm so hurt. What he'll talk about with his male friends is probably being, very angry back at the woman. I can't believe she did that.
How dare she?
Yeah. And not really touching on, God, when she said that, I felt so bad. I felt like I was a million miles away from her. And I don't know if I'll ever come back. I don't know if we'll ever regain that closeness. And people do, but at the time, it seems so far away. It could seem impossible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I guess women so often don't really think of men feeling that way.
Yeah.
Like we don't realize because we think that you're tough and that you can take it. A lot of women, myself included, I think we've been taught to think that if we're strong, we just need a man who's stronger than us, right? A man that can put us in our place and be stronger than we are, and that's what a real man is. But that's not what a real man is at all.
No. I mean, real men really want to make women happy. And so if a woman comes, I'll use the term at a man, being condescending or righteous or belittling, then it creates these deep, deep wounds, not only for the moment, but deep wounds as far as trust and safety in the relationship.
Wow. We do this sometimes over small transgressions. We can come at a man so hard. Maybe he missed a phone call or he canceled a date. Maybe something legitimately came up and he had to cancel a date last minute, and we're dressed or we were planning for that date and we're feeling disappointed, and how dare we? We have all these rules about how a real man should show up. And it may have been a legitimate thing. He may have really lost his phone, or he may have been in an accident. I don't know, but women can come at men for even these very small things and blow them so out of proportion sometimes when we're hurt.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to people in general feeling that their needs aren't going to be met, or that they're going to be hurt one more time, or someone is not considering their feelings. And sometimes it's watching a different movie. Sometimes it's watching an old movie rather than what's currently playing. And so we lose perspective.
Yeah. Wow. And it's so easy. I think a lot of times women don't realize how harsh they're being and how shaming. It can come out in the most subtle ways, in a phone call or in texting.
Or tone of voice.
Or tone of voice, right? Or talking about an ex. And a man listening will hear how punishing that woman can be, how angry, and not call her back, not want to have another coffee date. And the woman might feel ghosted, and the man thinks he dodged a bullet.
Right. And he may have. Yeah.
But they're hyper aware of anger.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was in a relationship that I realized in retrospect that I was saying, I'm sorry more than I said, I love you. And no man wants to be in that position. No man. I mean, what would be the purpose of being in a relationship if the relationship is going to be like that, kind of defensive?
And I can imagine a lot of women are saying, yeah, but, men need to up their game and they don't show up. And I'm so sick and tired of men who make promises and don't deliver. What would you say to those women?
Well, they may have every reason to believe all of those things, but it's how they respond to it and how they interact with the man. I think that because men truly do want to make women happy, they truly do. I mean, any man that a woman would want to date, any decent man. And if a man hears that a woman is deeply troubled about something and elicits his help to help solve that, a man will most likely rise to the occasion. But if a woman begins to attack a man, he's going to withdraw. He's going to dissociate. He's going to become cold and hurt and want to go off into his own world and nurse a drink or watch football or whatever. But it's going to bring the two people further apart rather than closer together.
Right. And, anger creates separation. Yeah. It creates separation. There's no good that can come from it. Sometimes it's the right response to a situation. I remember there have been times in my life where I've stepped back and I've asked myself, how do I want to handle the situation? And I realized that getting angry was the right response. But I also knew that it wasn't necessarily going to make people want to help me.
Right. Or solve the problem.
But I know that there have been times where it was a legitimate response to a situation where somebody was being completely unhelpful, where I had actually asked for help and hadn't gotten it. And then I knew getting angry was the right thing. But more often than not, it's just going to make a man in particular, it's going to do a few things. He's going to walk on eggshells, right? Or he's going to feel obligated to make a woman happy. And so he's going to do things not out of love,
but out of defensiveness, out of avoiding conflict.
Talk about that, babe, because that's a big one.
Well, guys don't like conflict, especially if it's directed towards them. So, a guy may go through the motions of bringing home flowers or something, doing what looks like thoughtful things, but in reality, they're trying to be this good guy that can be beyond reproach because he's afraid of her anger. So what he's done, he's lost some of his masculinity.
Right.
And then the woman becomes angry because he is less masculine. He's just trying to be a good boy. And so it just devolves. Mm-hmm. It just devolves.
He feels like she's keeping him on a short leash.
And he feels like he's on a short leash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's in the doghouse or something and he's having to tiptoe around or just
or about
be a
to
good
be in
boy.
the doghouse. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's just waiting to do something else wrong. And the thing with women is men don't even know half of the time what the rules are. We're so confusing. We're not linear. We're not direct with men about asking for what we really need and want. We think we're being direct, but men feel like I think the line is always moving.
Yeah.
From what I understand.
Yeah. And I think one of the things about anger is that we sometimes say things that we would regret saying, mm-hmm. and we could never take the words back. Mm-hmm. We could make up for it, we could apologize, all that. But once the words are out there, they could never, ever be taken back. I have been angry who knows how many times. And so many of those times I have regretted how I acted, the words I said, how I behaved. And when I've taken the high road, I don't think I've ever regretted that.
Right.
But I've so regretted taking the I won't even call it the low road, but just regretting the words and the behavior.
Well, just being reactive.
Being reactive, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So another thing that I think a lot of women aren't fully aware of is the fact that men have very high testosterone levels. And testosterone is part of nature's way of helping men be aggressive. It heightens their awareness so that men can fight, they can defend. And when their testosterone levels rise, they lose perspective.
And not just testosterone, but also the stress
hormones. But also the testosterone is what makes men aggressive. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is when a woman is really attacking a man, his testosterone levels rise, and then he's put in a terrible position because he has to start to manage his aggression so that he doesn't get violent or react physically.
Or storm out.
Right?
Yeah.
But he can't even really often manage or think. His thought process is really eclipsed by the testosterone and managing the anger and not being reactive. And so it becomes about trying to just calm himself in the moment. And a lot, from what I understand, a man cannot even really process what's going on in that moment because he's trying to just not punch a hole in a wall or storm out, like you said.
Yeah. And whether it's testosterone, stress hormones, and it's both, the stress hormones create fight or flight.
Yeah.
And so, he's either going to want to fight back, verbally, hopefully, and not physically, or storm out because there's no other choice at that moment when those hormones are raging in the body.
Yeah.
And they also linger. It could linger for quite some time. So not just memory of it, but the actual physicality of having this hormone surge. It's very difficult to come to resolution or an apology or find really what both people are feeling at that moment. It's almost like there are two holograms in the room. There's a hurt woman and a hurt man, and the holograms are fighting. And it's not really the real people because the anger is secondary to the emotion. The emotion may be hurt, disappointment, and for the man it may be feeling shame, and they're fighting not over the real issue. what's really happening.
Well, and if you ask them later, a lot of times they can't even tell you what the real issue was.
Because the anger is so supplanted, and the effect of the anger
Right.
has so supplanted the deeper feelings.
Well, and one thing that happens is you get makeup sex, or you can have like heightened sexual tension from that. But eventually, the longer term effect is that it takes a toll on the sex, because, a man cannot perform sexually with a woman where he doesn't feel safe with her emotionally.
I've known couples that purposely get into fights to have great sex. And I have a name for those couples, which is divorced. It may seem like, in the short term it's hot, but in the long run,
It's not.
when trust and safety have dissolved, the relationship dissolves.
Yep.
And trust and safety is the foundation of any relationship.
Well, it's sacred. It's like that's what makes new relationships in some ways so magical, is that we sort of project all of these wonderful things onto, oh, he's different, he's wonderful, he's this, he's that. It's not tainted. And so you start out with all of these wonderful, beautiful thoughts and feelings about who the other person is. And then when there start to be those cracks in the diamond, and the trust and the safety start to erode, then it's hard to undo that damage, can never really heal. So once that trust and safety has been broken, it's never the same, right?
Yeah. Even if people make up, they're scars.
Well, and it's really those 4 horsemen of the apocalypse that John Gottman talks about when he talks about criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and stonewalling. I think they go in that order. But first comes criticism, where, you're attacking somebody, you're blaming them, you're criticizing them. And then defensiveness, because somebody has to defend against those attacks, those critical attacks. And then the worst thing is contempt, because contempt is when all of the feelings turn to hatred. And there's almost no way to come back from contempt. There's none. It's like you can hear it in somebody's voice, no matter what you say to them, no matter how nicely you try to talk, no matter how much thought you put into what you're going to say. There's a coldness. There's almost like this huge wall that's come up, and no matter what you say or do, you can feel that behind whatever they're saying is hate. They hate you. And then, with men stonewall more than women do, but stonewalling is when you just go cold and you say nothing. There's nothing to say. They don't respond. It's like you're talking to a wall.
And I think you witnessed that with your parents' relationship, all of these things.
All of them. And it's just, it's so sad. It's just brutal. And you see it in anxious avoidant relationships. The avoidant will get critical, and then the anxious person will get defensive, and then the avoidant gets contemptuous, and then withdraws. He starts stonewalling. I mean, it's horrible. These are awful feelings. Most of us have felt them to some degree or other in romantic relationships. It's just, it's horrible. And there's a point at which you can't come back. When somebody becomes contemptuous in a relationship, there's really no coming back from it. That's the death of the relationship.
Because I think trust and safety and respect hold, and those 3 things dissolve with contempt.
Yeah. Let's illustrate what we see as the 4 consequences of anger. What happens when a woman lashes out and blames a man, and he starts to feel that it's just impossible to make this woman happy? What starts to happen?
Well, the first thing is it pushes the man away. So rather than bring 2 people together to solve an issue, whether it's a small issue or a big issue, it pushes the man away. And so it makes it even less likely to solve the problem than it was a few moments before.
Yeah. And then it breaks the trust and the safety in the relationship. And he starts walking on eggshells.
Yeah. He's trying to avoid landmines. So he's being overly cautious. So he's not bringing his whole self forward. And she feels that. And that creates dissonance in the relationship.
Yeah. And then the man will do something out of obligation because he doesn't want her to be upset. So he'll start doing all of these things, not out of love, but out of obligation. Or the flip side of that is that he just won't do it because he's not, a lot of men, even if a woman is right, they're not going to be talked to that way. They're not going to be talked down to. They're going to not do it just because they're being obstinate and stubborn and they're trying to assert themselves and not lose their power in the relationship.
Yeah. And another tragic result is that if a man is in a relationship and he feels like he could do nothing right, if he finds an opportunity to be with another person who, doesn't shame him, doesn't belittle, he doesn't have to walk on eggshells, he can bring his whole self forward, he doesn't have to worry about reactiveness, or if there is, it's quickly dissolved, not carried on into the next argument, the next event. He may seek comfort in an external relationship or just leave that relationship for someone else.
So he's either going to find emotional and or physical comfort outside of the primary relationship.
Yeah, and the physical is secondary to the emotional comfort. He's really looking for the emotional comfort, and the physical may, follow that.
And we're not talking about sex addicts. We're talking about good men, kind men.
Yeah.
The kind of men that we encourage our women in our 12-week emotionally naked dating program to look for, guardians of their souls. A man who has the capability to be a guardian of a woman's soul is a kind and sensitive and, caring man. And those are the qualities that make him more masculine, not less so.
Yeah.
But he will be hurt and he will feel unsafe and pushed away, by a woman's anger. And so it's not that women will not have anger, that people don't have anger, and that it's not a normal reaction to certain situations. And we're not saying at all that you shouldn't feel angry or disappointed. These are normal human emotions. And not only that, you shouldn't push them away. Sometimes they're telling us that something isn't right, or there's something going, that we need to look at or address in a relationship, but it's how we address it. It's how a woman talks about it and approaches it. Unfortunately for women, it's going to be you who brings most of those kinds of conversations up. It is. Normally, it's the woman who's feeling upset or disappointed. I guess you come up.
Well, I think men could have the identical feelings, except a man will turn on a football game or a tennis match, and a woman will express her feelings.
Address it.
Yeah,
she'll feel the need to talk about it.
He will have a beer or two and be watching football and not wanting to be disturbed because he's watching something in the back of his mind. There's another movie playing, and he doesn't want to bring it up because he doesn't want conflict.
It's also, in a lot of ways, unmasculine to talk about those things, to admit.
To process also.
Well, to process and to admit that you were hurt.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times men just wait for it to blow over. And women have to it's almost like we have to talk about it. I think when we come into these conversations, we're hoping that it's going to bring us closer.
Yeah.
We actually want to talk about it because we feel it needs to be addressed and we can't leave the elephant in the room, but then we don't approach it right. And all we do is wind up creating a fight, and then we feel more misunderstood. We feel more unloved. We feel, like you don't care. And in truth, if we were to do this in the right way, it could bring us closer together if we did it in a way that wasn't shaming and blaming and attacking. So let's talk about that, babe.
Well, some years back, I thought of conflict resolution in my own life and what I've done wrong and what I could do right. I think of 4 things. The first thing for me is simply to take a breath, because everything starts with a breath. And sometimes even just thinking about taking a deep breath through your whole body is like a reset.
Well, and when we're angry,
Exactly.
we're not really, it connects you to your body again.
Exactly. So just changing the physicality by letting the breath come through you changes being locked into an emotion. We just are able to be more expansive and also take in someone else. When we're not breathing and we're holding everything together, we can't take in anyone else. So
And that helps us relax, like our whole body is constricted.
Yeah. So everything starts with a breath, just a breath. And sometimes it's hard to remember to do that, the most basic thing, to take a breath. I remember in college, I used to write in my textbooks, like my chemistry books or physiology, I would have a slip of paper that just said breathe, and I'd have it randomly in the book. And I said, oh, okay. And I'd have to remind myself, and to this day, after almost 7 decades, I still have to remind myself to breathe. And the second thing is to try to do anything that could change the mood for a moment. Sometimes I just wait to respond until I could think of anything humorous about the situation, or, if I need to watch, like part of Animal House again for the 12th time, just something that helps to break that constrictive mood where everything just narrows in and the perspective just narrows and nothing else exists except that anger. So humor or walking in a garden or something that really helps to change our perspective really helps.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. And then what I try to do, because when I'm angry, all I can think of is that moment. Like, I can't believe, and I just want to lash out. And so I try to take in the entirety of the relationship. Oh my gosh, this person has been so good to me over the years. They've done this. They've been so sweet. They've, helped me when I was sick. All of these things, which tend to disappear if you're angry about one issue, at that moment. We forget about the totality of the relationship.
And think about the good things.
Yeah.
Like, think about all the good things and why you were with that person in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. And then lastly, I want to consider my words, because words could either bring us together or they could be a weapon that takes us apart. So I want to evaluate before the words come out, are these words going to bring us closer together, or are these words going to bring us farther apart? And so I try, if I could at least realize that ahead of time before the words come out, I try to have the words that bring us closer together.
Well, and let's talk about those words, honey, right? Because if there's an issue where anger comes up, there's a way to phrase it where you're asking for help and coming from your own experience rather than blaming a guy, right? Or just, but a way to make it an invitation, or you're not coming in with a lot of assumptions. You're not, oh, well, you did this and you should have done that and it should have looked like this and whatever.
And then that creates resentment.
Right.
Coming, as a response.
Well, I also remember something that Don Miguel had said that really stuck with me. And he said, we all have a rule book. And it's like, I have the world according to Lisa, and you have the world according to Benjamin, and somebody else may have their rule book. But I can flip to page 345 and say, see, it's written right here that you need to call me 2 days ahead to confirm a date. And you didn't do that. But in your book, it might say, oh, I already planned the date. It's in my calendar.
Right.
You know, if I contact her the morning of, for me, when I give my word, I give my word. And so we have two different rule books. You don't know what's in mine, and I don't know what's in yours. So it's about giving each other the benefit of the doubt and coming into a conversation, understanding that we're all just doing the best we can do.
Yeah.
And you don't know my rules, I don't know your rules, but let's find a way to communicate and ask for what we want and need in a way that doesn't shame or blame or push someone away.
Yeah. And anger breeds anger. And whether it's at that moment for that situation or for future situations, angry situations breed future angry situations.
Yeah. So we want to come from heart and we want to bring a certain level of compassion and understanding and just know that all people are going to make mistakes from time to time and we're not perfect. And, you know, the same kindness that I extend to you in a moment is the same kindness, you know, hopefully if it's the right partner that you will bring to me if I make a mistake. I know I came into our relationship knowing that I was going to make far more mistakes than you ever would, probably quadruple or more. And no matter how hard I tried to get things right, there would be times where I would miss the mark or get it wrong. I've only ever found, you know, having been a very angry, aggressive, in your face kind of person, and having really tempered a lot of my anger and learned how to express myself without being attacking, especially with men, the results have been extraordinary for me. And I've gotten better and better at this with time. People, I think in the past, I was so aggressive and in your face, and people were the same back with me. And usually what you're putting out is what you're going to get back. And so we were talking this morning about, you know, that it should be an invitation, that we should ask for help rather than tell somebody what they did wrong and how they could have done it better.
Yeah.
So an example of this, you know, let's say that you asked a man to do something or help you with something and you don't like the way he did it.
Yeah. The woman may say, I'm very disappointed in the job you did. I was expecting a lot more of you. You should have done X, Y, and Z. You need to correct this right away or it will escalate the matter.
How would you feel if a woman spoke to you that way?
I'd immediately feel resentful. I would feel like I would want nothing to do with that woman in my life. Any good feelings that I had would just drain at that moment. They may come back, but my relationship with that person would begin to narrow around that resentment or like fear of like, oh God, I need to correct this or she's going to get more angry. But all of those things are toxic. So attacking can be toxic where inviting could be nourishing.
So let me read the way that we had thought would be better to say it. Now, Benjamin, thank you for your efforts, and I would love to work with you to make this even better. Thanks for your understanding, and I look forward to working with you. Please let me know when you're available.
Yeah. And that would be like, oh, great. You know,
Sure.
yeah, this could be fun. Not adversarial.
Yeah. And it seems so simple. I mean, thanks for all your efforts. And I'd love to work with you to make this even better.
Yeah.
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 It sounds collaborative and inviting and kind, and there's no blame or attack. It just, it's a welcome space that you can walk into.
Yeah.
Like, you did a great job, and I think we might even be able to make this even better.
Yeah.
All right. One other thing I just want to put out there. There are some simple ways just to be inviting with men, you know, knowing that a man really just wants to make you happy. And so there are things that when a man does something that didn't work for you, There's some very simple ways that you can express what you would like. And so you could say to a man, you know, it would mean so much to me if you would take out the trash, you know, if you see the trash just sitting there, or it would, you know, what really turns me on is when a man does the dishes. I know it's not the sexiest thing, but boy, after I've cooked a meal and, you know, all I want to do is go and kick back and whatever. If a man, you know, I love it when a man is willing to go and clean up and do the dishes. It shows me how much he really cares.
Or if a woman asks a man, please help me understand, ...
Yeah, what happened here? I would love to know.
Yeah.
And I really want to hear your perspective.
Yeah.
What was going on for you? Yeah. These are just such simple things. And it's not about burying anger. It's about being able to come in with an open mind and an open heart and say something in a way that will bring both of you together and not push this man away, because men really do want to make us happy. They really do. And women are very confusing to men. We are, and complicated. You know, I think men find us often very complex. You know, take a deep breath, find some humor, find a way to break your mood, stop and consider the whole relationship, all of the wonderful things this man has done to try to make you happy and put a smile on your face and make your life easier and brighter. And then ask yourself, you know, will these words bring us closer together or further apart?
Yeah.
All right, my love.
All right.
I adore you.
I love you.
Thank you for doing this. All right. Thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you next time. And please know, this is Getting Inside the Right Male Mind. I'm Lisa Shield, and this is
Benjamin Shield.
the guardian of my soul. And if you have any topics you'd like us to discuss, please send them to podcast@lisashield.com. We take your suggestions seriously. And also tell everyone you know about this podcast. Please rate and like my YouTube channel. And again, thank you so much. We know how valuable your time is. Please spread the word. And finally, if you want to find out more about coaching with Benjamin and me, we offer an absolutely transformational 12-week program called Emotionally Naked Dating, and we can show you how to find true love. It is a 12-week course that will teach you more than most women will ever know in their lifetimes. In just 12 weeks, you will be a different person. You will see dating differently. You will approach it differently. You will feel differently. And we can help you change this part of your life forever. All right, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.